Tonight, the trial centered on a rape allegation against former President Donald Trump is now underway. Lawyers for magazine columnist E. Jean Carroll telling the jury during opening statements, which were today, that she was forcibly raped by Trump in the 1990s. Carroll says it happened in a dressing room at the Bergdorf Goodman luxury department store in Manhattan. Trump's lawyer denied that allegation today, saying Carroll schemed with others to hurt Trump politically and never reported the incident to police. The trial comes, of course, as Trump faces mounting legal troubles on multiple fronts, waiting for possible major indictments from the DOJ and in Georgia. Out front now, Ty Cobb, former Trump White House lawyer. And Ty, I just want to start with this case because I've sort of been calling this the sleeper case in a sense, right? That it's now happening and it could be very significant, but it isn't one people had spent a lot of time talking about until it actually started. So here we are, and Carroll's lawyer tells the jury today that they're going to hear from two longtime friends who will corroborate her account, along with testimony from two other women who will allege Trump physically forced himself on them. And her lawyer said in court today, and I quote, "3 women, one clear pattern: pounce, kiss, grab, grope, don't wait. When you're a star, you can do anything you want. And when they speak up about what happened, attack, humiliate them, call them liars, call them too ugly to assault." Now, to that point, Trump has denied Carroll's allegation, saying that she's, quote, "not my type." When you look at this case, Ty, do you think she has a strong case against Trump?
I certainly think, based on the evidence that the judge has agreed to let in, that her case is quite strong. She's got the two outcry witnesses being people she talked to almost immediately after the event, which that buttresses her credibility substantially. On the other hand, keep in mind, this is a long time ago,
Right?
almost 30 years. And those kind of cases are difficult to prove. But the judge, having agreed to let in, the testimony from another alleged victim from 17 years prior to this incident, and a second alleged victim, based on an incident 10 years after this alleged incident, that definitely strengthens the case in a way that I think it'll be very difficult for Trump to overcome. His attacks, that this is, politically schemed, emphasizing if he's allowed to put in the evidence that, that her case is being funded by a, left-leaning billionaire, even though she testified apparently at one point that it was a pure contingency. I think that's sort of background noise. I don't think that is going to sway a lot of jurors, and attacking her, I think is probably, it may be the only strategy they have, but I'm not sure it's going to be an effective strategy. I will say on appeal, this is a difficult case.
So, all right. So, and again, I know the timing on all of this and how it goes out. I mean, it's not like we're going to know tomorrow. But I just think it's significant, Ty, that you're saying this could be something that ends up happening, mattering, and it wasn't something that had really been on the radar in that way, like Georgia, like the DOJ.
Right.
So let me ask you about that, because the former Vice President Mike Pence is in Washington this week, expected to appear before the grand jury investigating January 6th soon, and he was just asked in an interview whether he saw Trump commit any crimes in the lead up to January 6th. Now, he's talked a lot about the overall issue here, but he answered this in an important way. Here's what he said.
Women around the country, hundreds of...
I just don't know, Leland, if it's criminal to take bad advice from lawyers. I saw a cast of characters, lawyers that frankly should never have been allowed on the White House grounds, giving the president counsel that was just simply not grounded in history or the Constitution and the law.
What do you hear there? I don't know, Leland, if it's criminal to take bad advice from lawyers. What do you hear there?
So what I hear is, what I don't hear is no.
Right.
Do you think he committed any crime? I don't hear no. I think he's acknowledging that, there were a lot of unsavory characters involved in this, giving him bad advice. I think he's going to address that, because I'm sure he had personal conversations with the president about the advice that the president was receiving.
Right.
I don't think we're going to learn a lot new, however, from Pence. I think, through the cooperation that he allowed his staff to provide, and his book and other things, I think we know maybe 90% of what he's going to say, but I'm sure he's going to relay some conversations now that the court has freed him up to do so.
And Ty, quickly before we go in Georgia, you and I spent a lot of time talking about that. At one point, you felt this was the
Right.
most clear and present danger to Trump. Obviously, that's changed, but still, could be crucial what happens there, right? Whether there's an indictment. And Fani Willis, there'd been expectation this would be in May. You and others felt this, and now she's come out and said July 11th till the end of the summer. July 11th till the end of the summer. What do you make of that delay?
Well, I think this goes back to, keep in mind that her first press conference on this was before Trump even left office. And then a year later, we heard the charges were imminent. We heard the charges were imminent again in January. I think she's sort of hard to peg down. She's got a pending motion to disqualify the attorney for several of the alternate electors. And today's news sort of obscures what is an important issue in the case, which is she's facing a very important deadline next week to respond to the petition that Trump's lawyers filed to quash the report of the investigating or the grand jury that gave the findings, and to remove her and the judge from the case. So I think there's a lot to play out. I don't see this happening before September, and as you and I have discussed, it would be. I don't see the Justice Department letting her proceed on the political front in advance of whatever they're going to do. I think the Justice Department will act before September.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ty. As always, we'll speak to you soon. Thank you.